and then start recording here. Give me 1 second. And sorry, now I'm trying. Suzanne, can you start recording? It's acting weird on me.
Yeah, we're recording.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yep, sorry. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm glad to see so many familiar faces back here again today. Today I'm going to talk about turning live meetings into virtual opportunities. If any of you were like me last week or the last 2 weeks, in some way, shape, or form, you have been dealing with the coronavirus or COVID-19, whether it's reviewing your contracts with your venues, talking to speakers, finding alternative dates, handling refunds, all of that, and also pretty much feeling like Debbie Downer, just putting a big canceled sign over everything. And you know, on top of all of that, we risk our members becoming disengaged by canceling all of these events. So social distancing doesn't have to mean the end of opportunities that we provide for our members. So here's some numbers that I came across. These are statistics from a recent survey conducted by North Star Meetings Group. 65% of the respondents have made the decision to completely cancel an event. So that means that they aren't rescheduling it at all. More than 50% of those canceled meetings have not been rescheduled. 20% are planning to reschedule in Q4, 14% in August, and I forgot to throw the stat up there, but it's around 20% that's looking to schedule sometime in 2021. And 30% of all of those meetings canceled are going to be going virtual. So, Linda, we'll get you the slides too. I can get you the slides. I saw you taking a picture of that. So we'll get you those slides, no problem. So what's the new reality in this work from home, shelter in place environment? We need to be able to quickly adapt to deliver a positive member experience. And while nothing can replicate the in-person meeting, you can still bring people together. And as all of you have experienced firsthand, NAFA Nation really adopted this virtual meeting practice really early on. We've been doing this for about 1.5 years, and you know, it's really put us in a good place to easily pivot from these live events to going virtual. And not only that, but a lot of our members and our staff, and obviously you guys as our chapter staff, are familiar with this format, and so it's not as big of a stretch as some industries are finding it to be. So basically there's 2 types of different meeting options, webinars and meetings. So I'm going to kind of go over the 2 different formats so that you can kind of weigh your events that you're looking at and see which is best for you. So the webinar, the format is speaker or panel with video and a presentation, and all of the participants are not on video. The engagement level is that attendees will primarily listen. Their ways that they will respond to you will be hand raising, polling, and Q&A features. There's also limited interaction between the actual attendees. So that is not what this meeting is. We are in meeting format. So speakers and attendees are all on video, and anyone is able to do a screen share. Audience can talk to each other through chat, through speaking up and turning off your mute function, and it allows a lot of interaction between attendees. So just some kind of tips and things like that. Before you go live, check your internet connection, especially if you're hosting. Hardwire internet is the best. I know in this work from home environment, that might not always be the most logical thing to be put together. I know a lot of people, the modem is in their kitchen and they don't want all the traffic coming through their kitchen and things like that. So, but you know, I've been on Wi-Fi this whole time, and the whole time that we've been working from home, and I haven't had any problems. Also test the audio with your speakers and your panelists. Always a good idea to do a tech run through to make sure that the technology works with all the speakers and everybody's familiar with what you want to do. That was very appropriate timing. Minimize background noise. Many of us were working from home, and be sure the dog has a treat, as my dog just shook his neck and had a collar. His collar rattled. So Dexter, that was very good timing. Start on time. Sign in 5 minutes early to allow the attendees to sign in. keeping people engaged. This is huge. You know, we can't be face to face, but we're engaging this way via the camera. So set the tone. So as your attendees are coming in, kind of ask an icebreaker question. You know, what are you looking to hear about from our speaker? If you are doing a bigger state event, you know, where's everybody from? Where are people dialing in from? Just to kind of break that ice. Utilize the question and answer feature. Encourage attendees to post questions throughout the session. You can either answer them as you go or at the end, whatever works best for your flow. And sometimes it works to have you know, two people working as the moderator. So somebody's talking and, like, for instance, if somebody had a question, Suzanne would be on there and she could respond to the question while I continue talking. Take advantage of the polling. Work with your presenters ahead of time to develop some poll questions, and it'll also assist in delivering the content that is relevant to attendees. So if you're saying, okay, well, how many of you sell life insurance? And two people say that they sell life insurance and everybody else does annuities. Well, the speaker might kind of change the message and tone of what they're going to be delivering. And number one, turn on your camera. This is a no exception rule if you're moderating or speaking in a webinar format. No one wants to see your name in big letters. They're coming to this to feel connected to you, not your name on the screen. If you're in a meeting format, not having your camera on is equivalent to be sitting in the back row of church. Be engaged and be present. I know not everyone has a webcam, but most everyone has a cell phone with a camera. And that's one of the great things about many of these virtual meeting platforms is that there is a mobile device, a mobile app to download to your device. So you can participate that way and still be on camera. I actually just went through that with past president of California. He's going to be using Zoom in his practice. He tried to order a webcam and it's on back order. He's ordered it 3 times. It's been canceled. And he's like, Emily, what can I do? And I just walked him through how to do it on his phone. So, you know, most of America is working from home these days. It's the new normal right now. And it's okay to, if your dog walks in the room and shakes his collar and makes a noise, it's okay. You know, it makes us more human and it makes us connected to the audience. So, you know, everybody's got something going on. And as long as it's not overly distracting, we're all usually pretty lenient to that. So just kind of some overall best practices, making the most of virtual meetings. Do some prep work. Cut out report outs. So if you are actually doing a meeting such as like a business meeting or something like that, don't have people just randomly just read information that could have been an email. I don't know if you've seen that meme, but that meeting would have made a great email. That kind of applies to this too. So only spend time on things like that if there are questions and comments. And come prepared. Encourage attendees to be informed of the content before the meeting, and also have some questions prepared for the presenters. As the host of the meeting, you've got to establish a standard of respect. It is still possible to be disrespectful in a virtual world. If you wouldn't do it in a meeting, in an in-person meeting, don't do it virtually. That means taking another call, responding to emails, that sort of thing. I just kind of ran through some don'ts of virtual meetings. Just a couple things. Don't make distracting noises, shout, distracting movements, you know, lots of crazy hand gestures. Don't interrupt others. Don't carry on side conversations. So if all of a sudden it was just like, hey, Justy, you know, what did you get that email that we got from NAFA California? You know, that's focus on what you're talking about. Don't wear noisy jewelry, you know, especially me, I'm a hand talker. And so, you know, if I had a bracelet on that was making a lot of noise, that would be distracting. And don't cover the microphone. Do's, be courteous to other participants, speak clearly, keep body movements minimal, do move and gesture slowly and naturally, dress appropriately. So I know, again, in this work from home environment, it's really easy to just want to just stay in your sweats and, you know, be cozy, but you are still representing yourself as your professional persona, and keep it that way. Do make the session animated, be yourself and have fun. I kind of specifically used mute as its own do and don't, because do use mute when others are speaking. It kills the background noise. If you're driving, you hear that constant, you know, while somebody else is presenting. But do not use mute to aid in multitasking. And I kind of got into multitasking. So ways to discourage multitasking: ask people to be on video. Call on people who are in the meeting to share their thoughts, because nobody wants to be caught off guard and be like, oh, wait, what did you say? And then also using the polling and Q&A. So there's a couple different platforms, and you know, you'll have to go and see what's right for you, look what's out there. I just kind of did a couple quick ones here. Suzanne, did we get a final on that number? Did you hear?
If your notes say 15, it's 15.
Okay. Okay. So that was something we were going back. So
at least 10. How about that? I can tell you
at least 10. We had some discrepancy information, and so I have a note that says that NAFA members receive 15% discount on Zoom, but it will be at least 10. Some other platforms are Skype, GoToMeeting, even taking advantage of FaceTime on your Apple products, and Slack. So that's my presentation in a nutshell. I have a tendency to talk really fast, so please let me know if you want me to go back and repeat anything or have any questions.
I'll just add, you know, also using Facebook Live is becoming quite popular. So if you do have a group that's really on Facebook, again, you have to really typically be on Facebook. But if that's something that can work for you, that's another kind of free resource that you can utilize. If your group is looking to do something, etc. There's also YouTube Live. You can also go straight from YouTube as well and utilize that as a resource. One of the things I think we're going to have to figure out as a group that's really come to my attention today is, oh my gosh, think about this. Do we need everybody to have a different YouTube channel? And you know what I'm saying? Like all of a sudden this has been cropping up today and I'm like, ooh, how are we going to handle that one? So I think we'll put that on the need to solve that one going forward. But those are really good things to do. And I think today, if you weren't on the town hall today, where we had Tom Hegna, what I thought was really interesting is here we've got a world-class speaker who's well-known in our industry. He was coming at us live from, I think, his kitchen. Right? And also then Van Mueller is doing this as well. So you're David McKnight. So big speakers who you normally only see on main stage are completely grounded right now. They're understanding that, or we have dogs like this, they're understanding that, you know, it's a great time to move to this virtual. And I think in an instant, it's going to become legitimate, right? It's very quickly because people have no choice. So any of the barriers I think we've had of people saying, we can't do this virtually, it doesn't lend itself to being virtual, etc. I think people are really suspending those ideas and saying, you know what, maybe we should look at another opportunity in this time frame. So I'm going to give you a great example of something we're thinking about. What happens if Congressional Conference gets canceled? And we can't, well, that's something that we can't recreate. We can't recreate going to Capitol Hill. But what about the diversity symposium that was happening ahead of time? That we probably could move to a virtual conference pretty quickly, right? Maybe even get more people to be included. What about the leadership training? Couldn't we do that? Right? What about the fact that now we have this town hall that we've ran 3 in a row with over 200 people on every day with a day's notice? Okay, so what does that mean to us? And now our executive committee is like, I mean, they're loving life. They're like, this is like the best thing we've ever done at these town halls. So now they're like, well, do we continue them? Do we continue like every week, once a week? Like, what does that look like? So in many ways, this virtual world, also, I will say, I do think that people are more lenient and tolerant with the virtual meetings. We've got some skittish people. If your board members are skittish, if they're like, well, I don't know, it's like, if I'm going to present, I have to have everything perfect, right? There's somehow something changes between going from being in a live environment to virtual. And people have more tolerance, and they're more, it's a more intimate environment than being up on stage. So people are more prone to say like, oh, you know, that's okay, that it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. Now, having said that, the stuff where people, as you know, lose it is if the audio is bad, right? If the audio is not in sync, and that usually happens because of bad internet connection, right? Or you just have a bad speaker, like the speaker is not good, then, you know, that's when webcams come into effect, because webcams have an integrated microphone in there. You usually have a wider angle and a much better microphone than like what's in your laptop. So that's something also to consider. It's easy to ship, you know, webcams. Like I used to have an organization, we'd have speakers all over the world and do these hybrid events, which is kind of live and virtual. And we just ship them a little kit to the speaker, pop on the webcam at home. We do the whole thing. We'd have perfect recording, you know, every time. So I think it's something else to think about if you need to work with your boards or talk about, well, is there something we could do in the meantime? I know many of the states are also, we're seeing this roll out all the time, so check with your insurance commissioner where they've extended CE credit. If you've already filed for CE in person, you can go ahead and now hold it virtually and it will still count. So that's something that you want to, you know, look at as well and see if we can't bring up some of these speakers. Now we know in our world of NAFA, we have a lot of members who this is brand new to, or the speakers have never done this format. So I think that we could look to people like Tom Hegna. If he makes it okay, it becomes okay. And tomorrow's town hall has Ike Trotter on there. And so for all of the members who might say something like, you know, I don't know, I've never done it. They still have smartphones. And when they realize they can do it on their smartphone, today on the town hall, I don't know if you guys were on there, there was one guy out taking a walk. It was awesome. You see him, he's on video and you can see him walking, you know, along, and he's walking along and doing that. When people realize that they can actually do this now from wherever and that the content becomes king and that's what's important, it really changes a lot of people's attitudes really quickly. And so Ike Trotter anyway is going to get on to talk about and kind of talking about change, you know, talking about as a super seasoned NAFA member, his adoption and like why this is so important, and it's allowed him to do his committee work. And again, what this can do actually, that's actually better than being in a live audience. If I'm in a live audience and I'm the speaker, I'm seeing people at a real distance to me. When I'm doing this, I'm like right here with you. So it's actually for speakers, it changes the way that they actually interact with the crowd. So if I'm speaking on main stage, if I'm speaking formally, it changes actually when I sit down to actually do it virtually. And you actually have a closer connection with the people. So speakers people who are used to speaking learn that very quickly. And actually it becomes, they sometimes prefer to do this as a virtual meeting. And that's something you guys could explore too, I think, within your own states and, you know, local chapters, et cetera. So just a couple of things there. And then I would say to Emily, or add to what Emily was saying, when you say like, who do you need to kind of run really good virtual meetings? You need to have somebody who can kind of work the board, who can like work Zoom or WebEx, who's handling people like somebody logs in and they're not muted. You need one person kind of focused in on that. You need one person who can kind of handle the online chat, right? And like handle people doing that and making sure that people also, a lot of times you'll get sidebar chats happening and people are like making sarcastic remarks or they're like chitter chattering and something on the side. And what they're not understanding in a platform like Zoom, all of that gets recorded. So if you're making that, you know, it gets recorded and it's there in the transcript. So letting people know things like that. And then if you do have a situation, you know, having somebody who's a moderator. So if like Emily's speaking, I can watch the chat and at the end of it, I can say, Emily, we've got a question. And just like you would do when you have somebody who's running the mic, you know, and so Emily is not trying to do all those things at the same time, right? Now, if you've done it a long time, you can probably do it yourself. But I think for a speaker, it's just like if you're going to be in a live, you know, a live event, let the speaker focus on speaking, right? And let somebody else be queued up, ready to do that. Just like a live event, you know, you need somebody who's good under pressure. It's a clutch situation. It's still a live performance. So you want somebody who's like, you know, it's not like you're doing it the first time. You're making sure that, you know, somebody is used to performance and can handle that type of stuff, just like you would if you're in a, you know, if you're at the AV company and all of a sudden, right, the sound goes out. It's like cool under pressure. So event people are, again, are usually, you know, great at this, but sometimes they don't know the technology. So then it's just transferring over and getting comfortable with that. But what we're hoping to see is that we're a resource to everybody and that we can make sure, I guess the better thing to say is what we don't want to see is we have boards who just say, we're going to stop and we'll pick up again and do something when hopefully COVID-19 is gone by like September. Because that'll be a real killer to the organization. We think if we do that, and that's what we're trying to make sure we don't do. So we're saying, hey, let's go ahead and do some other things in between. So that's one of the reasons we did the town halls. It allows members to access that and say like, oh my gosh, we really can put this on. And we have like, you know, I mean, our speakers, some of our speakers they're ridiculous how good they are. Like a Tom Hegna or Ryan Pinney. So being able to have that, letting them experience it, saying, actually, that was quite good. I enjoyed it. I could listen to Tom Hegna while taking a walk. You know, those types of things is one of the reasons we did that really quickly, because people adopt much faster when they just experience it rather than having you just sell it to them. I know I've had a lot of conversations with some of you on the call, and you'll tell me stuff like, well, I'm trying to convince my members, right, that they should do X, Y, and Z. I hear this one all the time. I'm trying to convince them that we should do NAFA Live. And so hopefully COVID-19 has helped us to get over some of those humps and say, you know, it's not a convince thing. It's not whether or not, it's just let's do it. And so that's why we wanted to kind of put this together, et cetera. And then, you know, be able to put the group together so we can share and make this just a best practices resource. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you know, like I said, it's kind of it's a great resource to be able to do. And I just am very thankful that NAFA has embraced this so early on, that we were some of the early adopters of this technology, so that when this happened, now we are not trying to scramble to get everybody familiar with it. You guys are already familiar with it. You guys have been on, you know, the chapter staff calls. You've been on leadership calls. You've experienced this format. And so it's not brand new. And so it just helps to put us that much further ahead than some other industries that are completely scrambling with this.
Yeah, and some of the things I think we are going to see, what I think I'm projecting what's going to happen is that we're going to go back to having in-person meetings, and the next thing you're going to say is, are we going to live stream it too? And so we're all going to be in the world of hybrid events, because the people are going to say, oh my gosh, that worked great for me. And maybe like I live, you know, I'm in a big state or something, I live can't do it, we'll participate, right? And I think we're going to quickly find that we're all going to be in more so that bucket and figuring out a budget for it and have that, so we have that accessibility.
Yeah, and one example of something that happened in Iowa. So during last month's NAFA Live, we had some watch parties within Iowa, and Cheryl did her presentation, and then afterwards, what we had done, I was in the Waterloo location and Justy was in the Ankeny location, which are about 2 hours apart from each other. And I brought my webcam from the office, set it up, and we actually live streamed 2 more additional CEs within the state of Iowa, so that more people could get more CEs and have that continuing experience of the virtual event.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think I still have everybody on mute. So if you guys have any questions, I just took everybody off mute if anybody has any questions.
And again, while not a virtual meeting, but other kind of virtual activities, I think you're going to quickly see us do that NAFA has not historically been doing, or things like having tweet chats and being able to turn to social media and have more people involved. So one of the things with our moving into the financial security and consumer space is, hey, what a great way to, we don't always want to put our advisors in a live and just have consumers hit them with questions, right? Because there's some pieces there. But if we put them in a tweet chat where we're on Twitter together and we have a couple advisors signed up and we're taking questions and we're able to go down to the chat format, that's like another win-win-win for everybody involved, right? So we can get out the chapter's name, we get out the member's name, et cetera. So you're going to see those coming up pretty soon, like probably next week. We're going to just start doing Twitter chats, maybe one a week, because I believe April's financial literacy month anyway. So we'll just check a couple extra boxes on that, and we'll get that information out. And then also, I think that what's nice about virtual meetings and webinars now is, let's take Texas as an example. So Texas had the Great Southwest chapter wanted to do a Secure Act webinar. So they reached out to Diane Boyle and to Judy Carstred. And so they were going to do that. And I go, wait a minute, and Tom Curry's going to host. I'm like, Tom Curry's like he's on our steering committee now. And he's Tom Curry, #1, but he's on the steering committee of Financial Security Alliance. Like, why don't we make this bigger? Can we bond together? And Great Southwest was like, yeah, we can do that. But like, we still want credits. Like, absolutely, 100%. So thank you, Great Southwest, right? That kind of thing. So it was a great example of how we're able to take something, because it's virtual, and offer it to everyone. Now we've got the recording. Now we've got it, and it's going to be in the Secure Act kit, et cetera. And still Great Southwest gets credit. We're loving them because that's a great idea. And thank you, they were able to share it. So we don't have to keep all this. What's nice about virtual and digital, it becomes, you share it right away, where you can't do that with live events. But if you're going to do it virtually and digitally, we can share everything, and that becomes, we can figure out what that looks like, right? So that gives us a lot of other non-dues revenue opportunities too. So those are all the things that we can kind of explore together that was on the list, but just COVID-19 ramped that thing.
Pushed it forward.
Pushed it a good 9 months forward, So no problem. I think we've launched like 6 websites in the last 6 weeks. So we'll just keep on going. But yeah, any questions or comments, etc. I mean, some chapters have been doing this for a long time, and they've got Indiana's one. Indiana can really be a resource to a lot of people. I think Sarah on there. I think you guys have been doing some stuff. So I think, again, we can pull that together now in this group and share and compare.
Oh, then, I forgot about you.
Got it.
Top Addison.
That's what happens when people are on mute for most of the conversation, and then when I take them off mute, they don't realize that they're off mute. So sorry about that, guys. But well, great. Well, thank you all for joining again. And I think tomorrow is crisis communication and marketing 101. So getting that message out and how to say it without creating panic.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody's hanging in there, and thanks for all the work you're doing. It's making a big difference. This financialsecurity.org is going to be really good for our members.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and so if you haven't done so already, it's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, right, Suzanne, all 4?
Yeah, you'll see it in the leaders' email today. Yep.
Awesome, so check that out. NAFA for Consumers with the number 4. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.